Hey Canyons Church and everybody watching on the internet, welcome to day number 4 of using the SOAP acronym, Scripture, Observation, Application, Prayer, to draw closer to Jesus. I'm super excited today. Today's one of my favorite verses, one of my favorite stories in Scripture. True story, not a parable. It's Jesus washing his disciples' feet. And it can be found in the book of John, chapter 13, 1 through 17. It's one of my favorite stories, not because of what Jesus does, but because of why Jesus does what he does. But before we dig into that, I want to ask you a question. Do you sometimes struggle with figuring out what to write down as you go through the SOAP process? A lot of people do. It's probably the most common thing I hear. You know, nothing jumped out at me. I'm not sure what to write down. Well, here's what you do. Just write something down. Just pick a verse, any verse. You could pick a verse that you think might be maybe as close as it gets to the moral of the story. You could pick the first time Jesus starts speaking. It almost doesn't matter because it's not about recording a thought onto the paper. The paper is the way that our thoughts are generated. It helps us meditate. It helps us what the Bible calls to meditate, to go a little bit deeper than just what our minds can come up with while we're reading over it. So write it down. The process of actually writing it down with ink on paper kind of activates something in your mind to help you out. And as you start writing, you'll start having the thoughts that you didn't have when you were just reading it. And then you write those down and you're off. All right, hey, back to Jesus washing his disciples' feet. John 13, 1 through 17, in verse 4, so, as in because of what just happened in verse 3, so Jesus got up from the table, took off his outer garment, wrapped a towel around his waist, and started to wash his disciples' feet. Now, I'm not going to tell you why he did that, but that changed my life. It changed the way I saw serving others entirely. I encourage you, spend a little bit of time on that. Really consider why John says that Jesus washed feet. It's incredible. It says something about the value of a person, and it says something about your value, that you're asked to do the same thing. And I especially love the very last line in verse 17. Jesus says, look, now that you know these things, you're going to be blessed if you do them. And that's what this is all about, isn't it? We're drawing closer to Jesus. We're seeing the things that he's asking us to do, and we want to do them. All right, that's it. John 13, 1 through 17. Have a good time in there, and then pull out an action plan. And I want to hear some stories. I want to hear some stories about what happens when you apply, when you hear it, and you do it. All right, we'll see you tomorrow for session number 5.